It looks like the Fed did another taper. They're down from, they did another 10 billion taper. In other words, the rate that they're buying, they're doing the QE. They're still doing QE, but they slowed it down. You know, it's kind of interesting when the Fed went from 40 to 85 billion. You know, it was at 40 or whatever, and then they added more. They went up to 85 billion. Well, they're still doing QE. It's like, you know, but anyway, the markets reacted, and gold and silver actually they had a slight boost. They had a slight boost. Emerging markets currencies are getting slaughtered, and you know, as they were before. So it went from 85 billion to 75 billion. Now they're down to 65 billion. That's the amount of QE that they're doing, bond purchases, and you know, it's like it hasn't clobbered gold and silver. Actually, they went up a little bit, and it's actually not doing well. It's not doing well with the Dow and the S&P, of course, though, and the emerging market stocks and the emerging markets currencies. So, what does that tell you? You know, hopefully the bottom has already passed us on gold and silver. So if you buy any of it now, you know, you're not going to lose. You're not going to lose. Hopefully that's the case. It looks like it is the case. That's what it appears to be to me. But, you know, I always had this contention, though. Say the bottom did fall out for silver and it went down to some crazy low. I don't see how you're going to get the coins. See, that's where I think you're actually very rock solid, safe in buying the coins, because if, you know, when it was going down to 18, people were expecting what happens if it goes below that or goes to 16, it'll go to this, that, and all this other stuff. But I always said, you know, yeah, even though there's a lot of silver on the earth, there's even a lot of silver stored in warehouses and bars, try finding the end product coins in adequate numbers to people. And, you know, I want to actually add this with palladium. You know, I've been an advocate of palladium, but let me put it this way. I'm not really pushing it. I just think it's smart. And that's, you know, that's what I did. I did that a while ago. But with palladium, I expected, the reason I'm not selling it is because I expect it's probably going to be worth more than gold at one point in time. But what's interesting about palladium, you know how they talk about it doesn't take that much money to move into the silver market to actually make it go radically upward, you know, or downward. It doesn't take that much money to move the silver market. It doesn't take that much money. It's more true of the palladium market. You know, I just have to interject this here because there's about, you know, roughly there's about 8 million ounces of palladium used each year in an annual supply. And that's the demand and supply, you know, about equal. And that's what's going on. It's actually been less than that. It's been like 7 point something million ounces. If you had 1 million people in the entire world, you know, out of all the billions of people we have in the world, you just had a million, you know, 1 million people, even in the United States, out of over 300 million, 1 million people just buy 1 ounce of palladium. I mean, that would take way more than 10% of it off the market, and it would drive the price up ridiculously high. That's why I got this suspicion about this metal. I don't know what it can do. What's going to be scary is if it goes up. Well, it's scary. You know, will you sell at the right time? Oh boy, you have to be lucky. You'd have to be lucky. But anyway, you know, it looks like Ben Bernanke is going to continue on with the taper, and the markets are going to continue to fall. But, you know, the markets had a lot of gains in 2013, so if they fall somewhat, so what? You know, I'm just hoping that the markets go up in the mining sector. And if the precious metals start going up, they should go up too. Actually, you know, the mining sector, as depressed as it is, if precious metals go up twice, the mining sector on average can go up 5-10 times. You know, people aren't looking at that right now. You know, they look past. They look at what happened in the last year or two. They don't look to the future. But it's always the most difficult to say when the actual curve, you know, when you actually hit bottom. You know, sometimes you think 26 was the bottom on silver, or, you know, if I thought it was going to be 24.50 or around 24, it was going to be the bottom. You know, and it went all the way down to 18, right? So, but on the way up, it may be the other way around, where you think 50 is going to be the high, or maybe it's going to be 72 to 75, or what? I don't know. But the point is, right now, it's dirt cheap compared to what which puts your risk factor pretty damn low. Now, I also want to say something about the economy and the American worker. A lot of times, everybody goes by price. And, let me put it this way. A lot of people, there's always a way to make something cheaper that will be your price that you buy. Correct? And, that's an age-old game. Because sometimes when you buy something, it's not really worth it. Because they still made a profit on that lower price. And what's going on is a lot of times the American worker, especially like the blue-collar worker, the construction worker, like the mechanic or whatever, they're all getting squeezed, They're all getting squeezed. And it's because there's somebody out there doing a job cheaper, but maybe not as good. And a lot of people just don't know what the hell they're getting till later down the road. So in other words, if they hire a plumber, maybe the guy isn't using the right kind of materials, the work isn't up to quality, and, maybe 5 years down the road they have a leak again. Whereas if they hire the American worker whose family's been doing the job for, it's been in the tradition, and their father did it, and their father before them, then they do it right. It might be a little more money, but it lasts, and you never have a problem again. A lot of people aren't looking at that angle, but that's what's going on with a lot of things, and it's actually killing the blue collar worker in this country too, big time. A lot of people aren't looking at quality, So actually, I should say that a lot of people should watch what they hire for doing things. At even if they're doing any kind of work on their house or whatever the hell it is, or they hire some contractor, that they hire people that have been established in business, that know what they're doing, because sometimes they're getting chopped out of jobs by cutthroat big corporations that hire people that don't know what the hell they're doing. In other words, they got a big name corporation out there selling you, hey, I can do the job on your driveway this cheap because we're this and we got the best prices, but they're not the skilled mom and pop operation that really knows how to put the driveway in, put the right kind of base on it so it'll last, or whatever the hell it is. You know what I'm talking about. So, those kind of people are getting squeezed big time. But, I should urge people that, make sure you deal with the right kind of, you deal with the middle class people all the way, and not the corporations. Because, this is not just going on in Wall Street. It's going on in every damn thing there is, to tell you the truth. Just as a side note, I put out some videos on, cars and things like that. And I was doing some work on an old Jeep I have that I had practically since it was new. I'm actually going to do a little experiment with that about trying to save fuel economy on an old style engine with a carburetor. I know the cars today are fuel injected. They're computer controlled. They keep the air fuel ratio at a certain point of time, and it may be that if we go into this hyperbolic spike in the metals, I'm expecting it's going to come about at the time of a fuel crisis, where the fuel prices are going to be very high. I think that the hyperbolic spike in metals like silver and gold is going to come about during a war in the Middle East. You're going to see oil prices way the hell up there, and what is actually going to be in demand is highly fuel efficient cars. Now, for average Joe blue-collar worker, and whatever the hell you are, female, whatever, the thing is, actually going old school is probably going to be less money than buying a high-tech electric car for $30,000. You'd be surprised that the cars they crushed a long time ago, even the Hondas and the Toyotas and stuff like that they had back in the 70s, those cars used to get about 50 miles per gallon, because they didn't have all the stuff on them with the airbags and all the ABS brakes and all this junk that has all the weight. They're just like a roller skate with a small engine, and they got that kind of mileage. The problem is they rusted away. So I'm actually going to put some videos out. I'm going to do the old Jeep. I got a Toyota carburetor coming for it with, even though I have an expensive Weber on there that's like $500. I got a Toyota remanufactured carburetor coming for it that I'm going to experiment with, and I'm probably going to get some HHO set up, a dry cell, if you don't know what the hell that is. And, that probably works pretty well with a very, 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 very simple type engine without computer controls, that you would get, excellent mileage from it, because I suspect that, well, it's not a suspicion, that there has been a lot of things out there, technology out there, that has been suppressed. That's not really super complicated, where you can get a lot more fuel economy out of cars and things, and engines and things like that. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because when we do have this hyperbolic spike in the metals, gold and silver, you're going to see oil prices shoot through the roof. I think oil prices will spike to more than $150 a barrel, and you're going to see it at the pump, and it's going to be on everybody's mind, and that's where you're going to make your money on the silver and gold. But it's also going to cost you money in your home fuel, your home heating, your electricity, and your transportation going to work. So I just want to point this out ahead of time, and we're going to actually be doing some videos on that. I have to, I've already ordered the carb on that thing, but just to get into some other areas, because it's going to be a matter of, once silver starts going up a lot due to tensions in the Middle East. This is what I've been thinking all along. I don't know when that trigger is going to happen, but I think it's coming up in 2014. It's kind of scary predicting that ahead of time, because I don't know this. Like, I don't have a crystal ball looking into the future, but the 4 blood moons, the thing with Israel talking about now they're going to do the third temple, which means they got to knock down that Mecca, the holy site, to put the third temple up. They're talking about doing that. They're backing off sanctions on Iran, which makes that's more impetus for Israel to do a strike or do something, or get something going where they're going to antagonize a war or whatever. And it looks like it's reality coming up in all the biblical predictions. So that's when we'll see the gold and silver go way to hell up. But what's going to be a big concern then is the price of fuel. And I've always been kind of ready for some of the things. Like, one of my contingency backup plans is I have the motorcycle, and even though that's a it's not super highly modified, well, maybe it is, depends on what your opinion is, but even though it's modified, it gets much better gas mileage than the original. It gets 48 to 50 miles per gallon average between city and highway driving, and which is great for 1200 cc. So anyway, when your price of gasoline does, because I'm expecting when silver hits like this $70-something an ounce, I think gas is going to be $6-8 a gallon at the pump. How's that? So this guy here is thinking ahead out of it from different angles. It's probably not going to affect me too much anyway, but I do drive, I don't know, I guess 120 miles or something round trip to places where I work to, because I don't work around this, in the countryside area around here. I'm more downtown and stuff like that. I never worked around this area, God. But I've always worked more downtown and stuff, which is, so I got drives I put in, and, I used to do 50-something thousand miles a year just for work, man. So, anyway. But just looking at that's going to be a major problem for the average Joe out there, and we're going to actually be doing some updates on that type of stuff in the future, big time, because I think there's a lot of ways you could squeeze a lot more mileage per gallon out of cars cheaply that are non-computerized. If you got a computerized car, you're screwed, because if you add this HHO deal to it, you know what happens? The computer readjusts for it, and then you got to do the O2 sensor thing, and it's like, forget about it, man. Forget about it. You're better off going old school all the way, and that's always been my recommendation. That's one of the reasons you stick with the silver and the gold. But it's going to come around that we actually have a currency crisis, but it looks like the currency crisis is really not going to be in the U.S. dollar first. Oh, it's going to be in emerging markets. They're getting slaughtered. They're getting slaughtered. So, the powers that be are in Wall Street, and they know what the hell they're doing, damn it. They're not going to give up power too easily, and they know what they're doing. They're crushing the emerging markets. They're crushing the emerging markets currencies, the stock markets, and everything like that. If fuel prices go up a lot, it's not just going to be felt here, it's going to be felt more in the emerging markets. And that's why, these fear mongers about the USA totally falling apart and going under and all this kind of garbage, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. But the problem is, where there is a problem, it's middle class America. That's who's going to get hurt. That's who's going to get hurt. So I'm not just looking at from the silver angle. I'm also looking at from all these other expenses that people might have. And energy during times of inflation, energy is going to be a major expense. Energy. So we're going to be looking at that quite often in some upcoming videos. I have an eye out for that. I actually have a head for that too. So anyway, over and out. Looks like Ben Bernanke's taper has not affected the metals. Actually, the metals have slightly risen. It actually has affected the emerging markets, the ones that Peter Schiff tells you to invest in. They're getting slaughtered. The emerging market currencies. It's affecting the American markets. The Dow. And, the interest rates on the bonds have been creeping up ever so slightly. And like I said before, if the bond rates creep up a lot, you're going to see a major exodus out of the equities into the bonds. And that's going to clobber the hell out of the equities. And, I think this QE garbage is not going to happen. This QE taper is not going to continue. I almost guarantee it. I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I'm sticking my neck out here saying, this ahead of time, but I don't think it's gonna continue. They're gonna reverse the decision. Watch. Something's gonna happen, especially when the budget fights come up here in Washington. And when that happens, gold and silver are gonna even do better. Like I said, the big catalyst is gonna be the Middle East. There's something going on, like I've been watching, I don't know what the deal is because every year it looks like there's going to be a war in the Middle East. But when they're talking about building the third temple, that's telling me something's coming up pretty soon. So if that happens, you're going to see gold and silver skyrocket, and oil.